episode 24 of the Simply Great Relationships podcast. We're so glad that you could join us today. I'm Marina Veron, this is Meredith Silversmith, and today we're talking about why self-care equals partner care. So we'll be covering what is self-care. We're going to define this buzzword of the moment. Why is self-care so important? Why self-care gets put on the back burner so easily, how self-care impacts your relationship, and then ritualizing self-care. Make sure you stay until the very end because we've got a really great bonus that we made just for you, and we'll tell you how to get it at the end. I'm really excited about this one.
This is a good topic. So self-care, Marina, what's your definition? What do you think self-care is?
Let's talk a little about what self-care is not before we talk about what it is, because I feel like there is a lot of stuff that gets labeled and marketed as self-care that I don't know if it is truly genuine self-care or if it's just marketing. Goop. So, like self-care is not organic manicures and vaginal steams and consumerism and this oil and this lotion and these supplements. Self-care is like not necessarily about spending money and buying stuff.
Right.
There are products that can help with self-care, but that self-care is not a product.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, self-care is more of an action, a process, right? It's an internal, active, and intentional process. So what does that mean? A couple more things that self-care is not, and I'm sorry if this is what you do and you feel like it is self-care. Vegging out in front of the TV. See, I'm going to disagree with you on this one. I know Marina felt that one, and I'm going to tell you why.
Okay. Let's model some agreeing to disagree.
How about open-mindedness? So, how do I want to approach this? If you are vegging out in front of the TV because it makes you feel relaxed and it makes you feel calm and it's a way that you de-stress and release tension and you like to lay on your couch and you have your favorite blanket and you have a nice snack and you watch a show that makes you laugh and makes you feel good, that to me is more of an active process.
100% agree. I think what I more define as not self-care is when you're on the couch and some show is on and something else is on and you're like this on your phone and you're scrolling through the Instagram and feeling pretty shitty about yourself because, Stacy got those new shoes you wanted and that one's on vacation where you want to be, and like you're not really present in the moment and enjoying it. You're kind of just zoning out and actually making yourself feel worse a lot of times.
Yeah.
So I think this was an important distinction because I 100% agree. Watching your favorite show in your cozy blanket with a snack and you're really tuned in and you're really getting a lot out of it, of course that's self-care. But I wouldn't consider that vegging out. I think maybe that's where we
differ on the definition of vegging out. No worries. So we just wanted to distinguish that for you because for some it is, for some it's not. I actually talk a lot with my couples about mindful TV watching versus mindless, which I think is exactly what we're describing right now, which is funny. Self-care is not going to happy hour with your colleagues to avoid, this is the important part, to avoid what's going on at home, an argument with your spouse, something stressful. So self-care is not doing some activity to avoid something you don't want to do or something that's causing you stress. That's the distinction.
So let's talk about what self-care actually is. So I think there are three components to what makes self-care. It's intentional, and it's active, and it's a process, right? So it's intentional. Intentional means like you set time to spend some quality time with yourself. You set that intention.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't just happen.
Right.
You know what state of mind you're going in with, and you know what state of mind you're trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And active meaning it's something you're doing, right? There's something, an action that you're taking to become more relaxed, more calm, sort of organize your mind, your emotions, move towards some personal growth in terms of self-acceptance, self-love, self-esteem. So it's an active process where you're working towards building those things,
Mm-hmm.
which is really important.
Yeah, and it's a process,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not just like vegging out and sitting there and doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So like my definition of vegging out, it's about tuning in. It's about doing
Mm-hmm.
something very focused.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing it because you are looking to get a specific emotional outcome.
Right.
You know, it's a feeling of fill in the blank.
Mm-hmm.
Self-acceptance, calm, rejuvenation, whatever it is. But it's definitely not just going for an organic manicure and then you're self-cared
Yeah.
for.
It's a little bit deeper than that.
Yeah.
Just a bit. So why is self-care so important?
Well, you know, I think for a long time there was this kind of misconception that self-care is selfish. Like you're putting yourself first. If you're self-loving and self-supportive and you want to take time to enrich yourself as an individual. But I think that's kind of a myth that I want to bust. I think self-care is really important because it's rejuvenating. Like we all have a finite battery, and when it's on low, just like we need to plug our phone and we need to plug into that state of recharging ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what about for you? What do you think makes self-care important?
I mean, I definitely get that part. I think re-energizing, clearing your thoughts. It's sort of, I kind of view it as taking the time to deal with all the stuff you don't have the opportunity to deal with when you're super busy. So it's like feelings that came up or thoughts that came up, or, sort of looking at the bigger picture of your life and your world and making decisions like what's best for me and, how can I relax and how can I de-stress? So it's almost like hitting the pause button and doing things that make you feel the way you want to feel.
Yeah, and I think like recharging that battery and getting to feel how you want to feel is a big part of being truly present in the rest of your life.
Yeah. Not
just in your relationship, but like in all your relationships with your kids, with your parents, at work, in your friendships. Like it's very hard to be fully present and enjoy and immerse and get the most out of those experiences if, again, you're running on empty and you're not feeling how you want to feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I experienced this just this weekend because I think you and I both had a really long week last week. It was just a particularly challenging one. And by the time the end of the week came, I was like, wow, I am completely tapped out. And then we did have a family event over the weekend. On Saturday, we had a family event upstate, so we had to do the drive upstate, and then we were with, a lot of family, and I was just I wasn't in the zone, I was not in the space to be really chatty and talkative and friendly. Like, I found myself, I just wanted to go sit on the couch and just kind of veg a little bit and just but I wanted to sit and zone out, and not in a negative way, but I just felt like I needed to just be and not be so involved and engaged and on. So that I definitely noticed that, and that's reality,
Yeah, I think that a lot of people can relate with that. I think everybody can relate with that. When I think that's like the red flag of you need self-care, when you find that you're really, really yearning for those moments of zoning out.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's definitely a sign to watch for, because it says, like, you're looking for any opportunity to kind of find that moment for yourself.
Yeah.
So I think with that, this ties into our next topic really well. Like, why does self-care tends to go on the back burner? Why is it so easy to put self-care last and everything else first?
I think it's that constant struggle, where it feels like it's sort of, I guess it's sort of a cycle, right? Where we get really busy and we're like, oh my gosh, I have to finish all of these things. Like, these are the things that are important. If I could just get these things done, if I could just get these things put away, I'll feel better. Mm-hmm. So we're trying, putting all of our focus outside, trying to control what's going on around us, versus saying, hey, I feel really stressed and overwhelmed. What can I do on the inside to try to manage that? Because the outside, realistically, is probably always going to be crazy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I think I've come to that moment of acceptance, and it was like a real aha moment, as I would call it in life, that the outside is always going to be crazy, but the inside is where kind of my locus of control lives.
I have not yet had that aha moment, but I'm working towards it.
We will get you there.
Yeah. So I think that's a big piece. I mean, what do you think gets in the way and gets it put on the back burner?
I think, like I said earlier, it's like this perception of being selfish, especially when things get really busy, not just for you, but maybe in your bigger system, right?
Yeah.
So things are busy for you and for your partner and maybe for your kids and other stakeholders and people involved. That perception that, if I tap out and take 20 minutes for myself, they're going to look at me as selfish is a really big impasse for people, because we don't want to be seen as selfish. Selfish is such a bad characteristic, right? When really what you're being is self-loving and self-preserving, which I think are really strong characteristics.
Yeah.
But again, it's that misalignment of what may people think about me if I tap out right now when everybody's feeling this way.
Yeah. That's a good point. And, it can be overwhelming to do self-care, right? It's not always the easiest thing to sit with your own thoughts, feelings, what's going on for you, and that can be a little bit discouraging, and it might be easy to say, oh, not today, not now, and avoid it a bit. But that doesn't mean it's not important.
Yeah, definitely. And then the rationalizations, right? Rationalizing that there are things that are more important. I don't have time for self-care. I don't have money for self-care. To me, that always sounds like a bit of avoidance. I would say when you tend to rationalize self-care away is when you probably need it most, because there's some bigger feeling you're not dealing with and you're trying to avoid.
Yeah.
But I think it's just so easy to rationalize it away. Well, Goop told me I can only do self-care if I go for this, organic facial.
Yeah.
I don't have time or money for that. When really it might be I'm feeling such a sense of exhaustion and overwhelm and helplessness and a sense of being stuck right now. It's really overwhelming to me to sit with that feeling quietly.
Yeah, definitely. How does self-care impact our relationships? I do like this one because I always like to bring it back to the couple.
Yes.
We always like that. So it's this concept. I actually get sick of hearing this example, but I'm going to use it anyway. If you're on an airplane and the masks come down, put your mask on first and then help your other person that's with you. So it's that same concept that if your cup is not full, if you don't have the energy, if your battery's not recharged, you're not going to be able to give of yourself to someone else. So that really is the first step. You have to fill your own cup before you can be a supportive partner, a good listener, validating, because what happens otherwise?
You get snappy, you get short, you're easily irritated, you're running on empty. You're using limited resources, right?
Yeah.
So it's really easy to go to those surface level visceral emotions anger, snappiness, irritability.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to access all that good stuff that requires to be in a bit of a better
Mm-hmm.
and more relaxed and more calm and more self-cared for place.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the emotions that you want to take priority in your relationship, not the visceral, like, fight or flight type emotions because you're so drained.
Yeah. And it's not the real you. And I think that's something that gets missed, right? It's not, you have an unmet need, right? At the basis of everything. So it's not, we don't get along, we fight all the time, we're cranky. Like, I think that now having this conversation, I'm going to be having that conversation with my couples. What do you do for self-care? When's the last time you had a day off? That is something I've noticed. Where couples, where one partner works like 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
How can we ask them to, okay, now summarize and validate your partner when they're like drowning, in their own stuff. So that's a really big piece of, I always say the 50% that's one partner's responsibility and the 50% that's the other. It's not just a relationship issue often. You both have to do your part as individuals to set yourselves up to be a good partner.
Yeah, exactly. And basically, like, you can't be your best self if your self is not charged. Another thing about self-care is where you do a ton of your personal growth.
Yeah.
So self-care is where you learn a lot about yourself, and it allows you to then take that and bring that into your relationship. It allows you to share that with your partner and have them know you better, which is what grows and enriches your relationship. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like the more self-care you're able to do, the more genuine self-care you're able to do, the better you're able to get to know yourself, the more kind of authentic self you are in your relationship, the more connected you can be with your partner.
That makes it sound very important.
It is very important. It is very important.
That's great. So, I mean, by now you know that we love ritualizing things because that's the best way to build it into your schedule, especially if you're busy like we are. So, how do you ritualize self-care? Because if you don't, it's probably not going to happen.
I think, like, you have rituals of connection in your relationship. You have rituals of connection with yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what self-care is. It's about connecting with yourself. And our first and favorite tip for anything that's ritual related is schedule.
Yeah.
Schedule it in.
Yep.
Use iCal, use Google Calendars, use a good old desk calendar.
Put it on the calendar.
Yeah. The second it goes in, I feel like your likelihood of actually following through grows exponently. As opposed to if you just, like, think about it and go, oh, I'm going to do that at some point in time.
Definitely. And this doesn't have to be big stuff, right? It doesn't have to be these, like, I'm going to take a cruise by myself and all these things. It can
I'm going to eat, pray, love.
Oh my gosh. Not that we all wouldn't love to do that. But it's just small stuff often, right? Compounding effect of doing these little things every day, every week, every month are going to lead to a consistent flow of self-care. So what are a few of your favorites?
5-minute journal. I love 5-minute journal. It is so quick. It is so easy. It is so ritualized for me right now. And I think it just, like, captures those key elements of self-care. It's intentional. It's a process. It's about how you want to feel.
Yeah.
And it just brings so much, like, gratitude and makes you scan for the good stuff. And I think for me, that's really helping me connect with the way I want to feel. So that is definitely one of my most favorite, easy peasiest, anyone can do it, self-care rituals. What about for you?
I too like the 5-minute journal. I'm better with that. I like the idea of a morning ritual, and I've been trying to get this consistent for a long time, ever since I read this book, and I would highly recommend the book. It's called The Miracle Morning. We'll put a link below. Obsessed with that book. So I do the 5-minute journal. I do a meditation from our favorite app, or my favorite. You like it too.
Yeah, Meditation Studio.
Meditation Studio, love it. Link below. And then I read for 15 minutes. Something nonfiction, something that's feeding my brain and getting my brain thinking about interesting things. I don't quite have the exercise part built in yet. That's the 4th component of the Miracle Morning. I haven't been super successful with that. But the other 3 are going pretty well. So that's my self-care, and I do that every day.
I feel like 3 out of 4 is pretty good.
Yeah, I guess. I suppose.
But yeah, Miracle Morning, I think that's really about starting your day with self-care.
Yeah.
Which is like such a lovely intention when you think about it.
It's like the ultimate I come first. Me first, and then everyone else.
So great book, definitely check that one out. Really simple things like going for a quick walk at lunch. Spending some time walking around by yourself, listening to a meditation, doing a walking meditation. Great, super simple, very doable way to press that refresh button.
Taking a bath. I know we enjoy this, except we're not as lucky to have really top-notch taking bathtubs, but if we did, we'd be taking a lot more baths. But if you do have one, you should hop in there, because that's a great self-care, because you could just sit, you could read, you could listen to music, do a meditation, light some candles, create whatever ambiance you want. That's really great.
Yeah, and I find the water is just so relaxing. It's just all the elements, are there. I will say you do not need to buy $70 bath salts with all kinds of fancy stuff in them.
Yeah.
You can do it for free $99 with just water in a tub.
That'll get it done.
That'll get it done, I promise. Meditating. I think is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful self-care ritual.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't stress that app enough. It makes it so simple. I tell all my clients about it, because you're literally hitting a button and they're going to walk you through it, and you pick what your intention is. Definitely download it, because it just makes it so easy. We're all about easy. There's no reason to make things hard. So meditating is a great one. You could start your day, you could end your day, or you could use it in the middle if you need a little refresh.
I also think being creative. So if you like to doodle or draw or paint or dance or whatever your form of creativity is, setting aside a chunk of time, but making that time sacred, really blocking out that chunk of time to be creative, is a great self-care ritual.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion.
Another super easy peasy one. Like we always say, we don't want you to just listen. We want you to listen, and we want you to integrate this into your relationship and into your individual experience. A lot of this is really about your individual experience, so we want you to integrate it into there and then into your relationship. We've put together our 10 easy tips for effective self-care just for you, and you can get it at simplyGreatRelationships.com/024. So let's talk about takeaways.
Let's talk about them. I don't know, we didn't say this out loud, but during our conversation I was thinking it in my head, so I guess I'll share it as a takeaway. with ritualizing, I think it would be really beneficial to have small things you ritualize daily, and then a little bit of like a bigger self-care reset weekly, and then even bigger one monthly. I feel like there's some sort of build-up, at least for me. Like, there's a build-up every day of stress, let's call it. There's a build-up by the end of the week, and then there's definitely a build-up, like, over the course of a month. So I think building in and scheduling a daily, a weekly, and a monthly would be really beneficial.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's great, and, like, kind of finding variety in your self-care rituals. I love that. That's great. My takeaway would be, we both love baths, the 5-minute journal. No, my takeaway is really that, like, self-care has a compounding effect. So the more you do it, the more of a benefit you internalize from it.
Yeah.
And that it's not selfish.
No, definitely not selfish. If there's one takeaway you have from today, self-care is not selfish.
All right, well, that's all for today. We hope you take these tips and start using them right away. We'd love to continue the conversation with you guys in our Facebook group, where we'll be hooking you up with tips, with tricks, with live streams, with more info exclusive for our members. You can find our group at facebook.com/groups/simplygreatrelationships, or you can just click the link on our website, simplygreatrelationships.com. We would love to hear all about your self-care rituals.
Yeah. Join us.
Join us, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.